to care.
Yes.
Right? Because that's the easy way out.
But I care, the only way it manifests itself in work, in the action. I put a sign on my yard with Black Lives Matter. Period. Done.
All right, guys, we are at the last leg of the conversation between Jordan Peterson and Magatte Wade on how Black Lives Matter. And so far we went over her entire story. She discussed her entire story. She debunked myths about African poverty. And then she went from the bottom 10 countries for doing business around the world. And then she discussed the differences between civil law versus common law, British common law specifically. And apparently that's the best thing since sliced bread when it comes to doing business. Now we're about to get into one thing that she finished off saying right before we ended episode 4 of this right here. She was saying that out of all Black doctors in the entire United States of America, the great majority of those Black doctors are Nigerian. And then that's when I told her that she ain't got to rub it in our face. And then she said to me, all right, so we about to finish this, man. So far, this is an amazing conversation. I'm really enjoying it. Hopefully you are too. And if you haven't seen the others, please go check those out before you check this out. All right. This is for the people who have a little bit of time on your hands. If you're driving, if you're cooking, if you're fixing something in the garage, if you're just chilling with your friends in the backyard. I don't know, man, but it would be good to check it out because these are really good conversations.
I call BS on that because you see, again, the same Africans, you bring them to a country where there's economic freedom and voila, let them manifest. I mean, did you know that most Black doctors in the US are from Nigeria? Did you know that? Right? And that...
Yeah, well, I know that Black immigrants to the U.S. do much better, proportionally speaking, than Black people who are born in the U.S.
Right. So there is that. But then when I asked that question, it's when George Aite in his work brought me my answer, and that was the last piece of a puzzle, and then everything made sense. Okay, our region is the poorest in the world because it's the most overregulated region in the world. How did we get there? George takes me back. George takes me back to a time that most people don't think about, including myself at first. Because when most people think about the story of Africa, Africans, and Black people in Africa in general, we go no further down than slavery. It seems like our collective history starts with slavery.
What about 1619?
And George is reminding us, no. They were, before the white man ever set foot on the continent, Black people were there. They had different types of, like many different cultures, many different society groups, name it. Yet, and then George made the case with his research that actually pre-colonial Africans were actually practicing the free markets. They were practicing free enterprise, and it makes sense. But so what we were doing back then, in Africa, you could find some of the most sophisticated trade routes in the world. You would go to places like Great Zimbabwe, where basically you would see these homes, these buildings built in a round shape with stone. Whoever built that in those times was at the top of their craftsmanship, at the top of engineering skill sets, something quite unbelievable. So
you still can't break down how people built things back in the day, lacking the tools that we have nowadays. They didn't have any cranes or anything. How in the heck did they build those buildings and those pyramids and statues? How were they doing it, man? People back in the day were freaking geniuses. They absolutely was. I stand by that.
Engineering skill sets, something quite unbelievable.
Like God
so
did it.
Unbelievable and advanced that when the white people came, they said, there's no way Black people could have built this. You see, so this is who we were. And the chief could never say, oh, Magatte, you made your bread, now you come to the market, and you're at the market here, you cannot sell it for $1 more profit than I allow you to Jordan. No such rubbish. Didn't exist with us. You had basically also this idea that we have to wait every 4 years or 5 years to vote. No, we voted with our power of exit. and you could exit every second that you wanted. If you don't like this chief and what he or she is practicing, vote with your feet, get out. You go join another group, or you go start another group, you name it, but you're not going to sit and fight with other people there just so that things can go your way. You go and make it happen your way, or you go join others who are doing it your way. And so for the longest time, what we
She said, vote with your feet. You get out. I doubt people would do that here. I doubt it. They talk a good game, bro, but they ain't going anywhere. Ain't nobody going anywhere, man. People just too spoiled. They like, nah, you know what? Nah, I'm just gonna stay here and complain. I'm gonna complain. I'm gonna get on your nerves. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm trying to interrupt your peace. I'm disturb the peace.
had was tribes maintaining the peace. Did we have battles among us? You betcha. That's, again, human nature. But what was happening? We were tribes working with each other and keeping the peace, even knowing sometimes when to try to intermarry so that we even keep the peace more. And then they came and they said, oh, gee, aren't you guys savages? And we're going to civilize you. And to civilize you is we're going to bring this top-down governance approach to all of it. See, we were practicing decentralized governance before. And they showed up and they said, to be educated is to have centralized governance. What did you do when you do that? Now the tribes are fighting among each other to take control of that centralized governmental governance.
There's a real tension there, eh? Because it's very difficult.
Sounds familiar.
It's very advantageous, obviously, for people to be enmeshed together in large-scale groups like the United States, 320 million people. But then the question is, how do you put in all the subsidiary levels of organization so that just doesn't become a monolithic state?
Right.
And then the question, too, is, well, how do you introduce that large-scale integrated governance without absolutely demolishing the micro-societies that make up part of it and bring people together without undue bloodshed?
Right.
It's a real catastrophic problem from a historical perspective.
It really is. It really is. So then we went, to go back to the story, we go from having tribes to now tribalism because of his introduction. So anyway, so when they came, they said to us, so all of that was going on, and then eventually we were living our lives, minding our own business.
I'm gonna tell you one thing. Okay, so I'm gonna let her finish her story, but every time I check out these videos, man, and I've never been one to regret anything before. That's just not who I am. It's not in my spirit. I just enjoy life as it comes. But every time I check out these videos and I'm listening to these people who are highly intelligent, man, it just makes me, I kick myself in the butt for not paying enough attention when I was at school. I really do. I kick myself in the butt, man. I wish I did, because I don't know, man.
Doing fine, and I would argue that if we had been left alone, we probably would be the richest continent in the world today if we had continued. But we didn't continue. Slavery happened. After slavery, colonialism happened. At the end of colonialism, this is where I would like to bring the attention of people, because that's what George is so beautiful in pointing. Just around the time when most African nations were getting their independences, starting with Ghana, we're talking about the late 50s, early 60s. Remember also what was happening back then. We were at the height of a battle between these two ideologies.
Right.
One end, represented by the freedom, and their economic practice was capitalism, and on the other, facing off with various forms of statism, socialism, communism, and primarily their practice was, they were socialism or communism, and they were at like this with each other. Around that time, we're getting our independence. And do you know what they said? At that point, remember, try to put yourself back in those times, because it's so important. You have these great liberators of Africa who have fought for liberation. We're talking about Rawlins of Ghana. We're talking about Julius Nyerere. We're talking about people like Thomas Sankara, later down the road. We're talking about these people, right? And they have fought for the liberation of this continent. They have given it everything they had. And when, but what we don't remember, so what happened with these people is like, oh, so now these two ideologies are fighting, and it looks like we have to take a side because the two ideologies fighting, we're looking for influence, and we're looking for influence south, right? So, and everybody's looking.
And
down.
Africa was trying to free itself from domination by, at least nominally, the capitalist West. And there's always the idea that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right?
That's exactly.
Yeah, and that didn't work out so well with the communists.
No, and this is where we made the fatal mistake because
they communicate with one another so they like I sometimes I wish I could be in a room with them and just throw my piece in there, but they probably look at me like anyway. they probably look at me like, if this dude don't shut, you done? Who invited him? Jordan, you invited him? Jordan be like, nah, I don't know who he is. She's like, I ain't invited him. Who invited him? I'd be like, I was invited by YouTube to react on this conversation between y'all. But, you know, I'm not going to say too much. I'm just going, you know, be a fly on the wall. That's it. Okay, all right, so let me get back to this, man. I just love this so far, man.
And that didn't work out so well with the communists.
No, and this is where we made the fatal mistake. Because at that point, as we were looking for influence, us Africans, freshly liberated, and I put quotation marks because I'm not sure we have been liberated, freshly liberated is saying, look, you, West, is who enslaved me first, then colonized me. I am certainly not going to party up with you. So we're going to go in cahoot with the Eastern, you know, with the not so free side. And this is when they have been spending all of their times with the Marxist socialists of their times. And this is also times around which W.E.B. Du Bois
I remember W.E.B. Du Bois
did the dirty work. He didn't think it was dirty work, but he is the one who helped all of these soon-to-be leaders of liberated African nations to really bite into these ideas, because by then they had conflated slavery with capitalism, with imperialism, with colonialism.
With common law.
With everything. So for them, the whole darn thing was one big evil to throw out of the water. And so they threw the baby out with the bath water. And when they did that, they had totally forgotten their own indigenous roots, because pre-colonial Africans practiced the free markets. Pre-colonial Africans would have looked at these Marxist socialists and said, this is heresy. You guys are crazy. This is not even part of our roots. We are rejecting this with everything we've got. But it did not happen that way, no. So this is how liberated nations of Africa got started on the wrong foot, went to bed with the wrong people, and 6 years later, we have nothing to show for it, because we all know what happens to people who follow the socialist route.
This does fit in nicely with our earlier comments about Venezuela, because Venezuela has taken exactly the same route and gone from a rich and post-colonial country to an absolute bloody nightmare in about 30 years. And it's also a consequence of that entire country falling under the toxic dominion of these ideas. But you can certainly understand why that would have been attractive to the emergent African countries of the 1960s, right? I mean, it is a hard thing to think through the idea that the enemy of my enemy is not necessarily my friend.
Yes.
And a lot of these Marxist ideas, which purport to have the poor in mind, but which truly don't, are extremely attractive, even if you are heartfelt in your consideration for the poor. The problem is that the only systems that seem to lift people out of absolute poverty are free market capitalist systems, and their equivalent, the kind of equivalent you described characterizing pre-colonial Africa.
That's right, and that's why it's so important for me whenever I bring up this part of the story to always, that's why I was saying, please try to put yourself back in their shoes back in those days, because I believe that if I had lived in those times, I would have been part of the people who fight for African liberation. And I probably would have made the same decision to side with a Marxist socialist. I would have. I think I would have.
Well, half the Western world made that decision, and the Chinese made that decision, and the North Koreans made that decision. I mean, and now we're having a battle about the same damn ideas again.
That's the thing.
Have invaded.
I love the honesty. I love the honesty because so many people can say that if they were in the shoes of the people back in the day, they would have done something different. And she just now simply said, "Listen, if I was back there and I had to, I would have definitely taken up arms for my people, but I probably would have did the exact same thing because what can you do? It's like to believe that you're going to be that one person that outthink whoever was in power at that point. I mean, how everyone's thinking at the moment is how everyone's thinking at the moment. So it's difficult, man. But I'm thankful and grateful for their honesty.
And now we're having a battle about the same damn ideas again, and have invaded the West again.
That's the thing. But this is where I, as an African, will not have it. While I excuse, I think the mistake they made was fatal for us, but hopefully it's a mistake that would have had consequences for only the 60 or 62 plus years, since we made those decisions. But today I take it upon my responsibility as a contemporary African, to know better. And on top of that, I also know the ways of my pre-colonial fathers, which to me now are the only ones I want to look at, are pre-colonial fathers. Of course, is it that everything they did was right? No. This is why, we have progress in life, right? There are some things we know now, we're not so good, but there are some things that have to pass the test of time and place. So maybe those we should keep. So anyway, as an African living today, with everything that I know and is available to know everywhere, the research is very clear, the evidence is rock solid. I cannot in all consciousness and be a person of high morality. I cannot disregard what I have learned and what I have experienced and what by now we know to be true. So people like me, the Marxist socialists need to know, for the longest time, they have used us, the Black people, to make their dirty deeds. So maybe the Black Lives Matter people, the founders who are self-called Marxist, social Marxists, fine. If they want to go, I say fine. I'm not fine. Yeah. But if they want, I'm not willing to be the useful idiot of the social Marxist any longer. They have used us Black people for too long. They have used us suffering for too long. But today, I know better to dissociate myself, and so they're going to have to go look for other peons to mess their heads with. But because people like me, I know the truth. And what I love about the truth that I
love her strength. They're gonna have to go look for other peons who aren't thinking people in order for, if you come at me with that, I'm chopping you down with knowledge. You go trick somebody else with that. You mess with the wrong one.
To mess their heads with. But because people like me, I know the truth. And what I love about the truth that I had learned is that my pre-colonial forefathers totally would have stood by my devotion to the free enterprise. They would have said, great granddaughter, thank you. Thank you for looking back to our times and seeing what we were doing. We were we were on the right track, girl. We were. So today, I think everybody has to make a decision for themselves. But me, what I have learned, that's what I'm taking out. And everything we talked about today, Jordan, is really not part of the mainstream. Because you ask most people, African included, why are you poor? They're gonna say colonialism. They're gonna say racism. They're gonna say because they're taking all of our natural resources and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And guess what? Those who claim to care in the West, they leave us in that misguided opinion of what the problem is. Because it took me so long. I was with these people who said that they cared about me. They cared about Africa. But I found that every time that they hear that the solution might be for free markets and capitalism, the look of disgust, I think that's the right word, the look of disgust that they have in their face. If I was not stronger, I would feel disgusted by myself for having those opinions. So do you really care? Or do you only care when the solution that you're peddling goes to support your own ideology?
Yeah, and your own moral claims.
Yes.
To care.
Yes.
Right? Because that's the easy way out. It's like, well, I care, and there's some people who are well off, and those people who are well off have stolen everything they have from the oppressed people, and I'm on the side of the oppressed people, and all I have to do is punish the oppressors, and all of a sudden I'm a moral agent.
Yeah.
And I can leverage the suffering of genuine poor people whom we know have actually been helped out of their absolute poverty by capitalist systems. We absolutely know that to be the case. I can leverage their suffering to bestow onto me an undeserved moral superiority.
That's right.
And then I can have my cake and eat it too, because I can still be a denizen of the wealthy West.
That's
and
right.
I can feel sorry for poor people and be oppressed at the same time.
Absolutely. And I feel like you're even being too generous for them in terms of the work they put in. Because today, that I care, the only way it manifests itself in work, into action, I put a sign on my yard with Black Lives Matter. Period. Done.
Call them out. Call them out. She calling them out. She said, y'all don't really care. If y'all cared, y'all would actually daggone have some action behind that. Y'all don't have any action. What's actually happening is Black people are dying, and you don't care about that at all. You care about making your money and financing whatever goals and personal goals you all have as an organization and family. Because I say and family because I believe the organizer, the main person's brother who does her security, she was paying him $800,000, or that's light, like closer to $900,000 to do her security. with donators' money, with money that was donated by people who actually was trying to make a difference. Wow, break it down, Magatte. Let's go.
Sign on my yard with Black Lives Matter. Period. Done. If Black Lives Matter so much, if Black Lives Matter so much, then you cannot, with a straight face, tell me in the same sentence that you also are anti-capitalist. And also, if Black Lives Matter so much, what do you make of the fate of 1 billion Black people? Because Africa is home to 1 billion Black people. We're 1.3 billion, but 1 billion of those are Black. It is home to 90% of the representatives of the Black race. Yet you tell me Black Lives Matter, and you, in the same sentence, are going to be anti-capitalist. The only thing we know to build prosperity, and with that respect, you cannot be possibly serious here. And guess what? Newsflash. People like me today are here to tell you how full of it you are, because you're full of it. And I'm not.
People like her are here to tell you that you're full of it, because you're full of it. Say it one more time, Magatte. They ain't hearing you in the
Be
back.
possibly serious here. And guess what? Newsflash. People like me today are here to tell you how full of it you are, because you're full of it. And I'm not going to allow you to no longer have your cake and eat it too. It's just too easy when the stakes are so high. And the same thing with your whole thing about the climate change. Oh, gee, climate change. I'm not even going to go and argue the scientific,
Merits.
argument. I'm not. Let's say I even agree with you that the world is going to go to hell in 12 years, as they claim. If nothing is done, Earth is going to blow up in 12 years. Let's go and freak out all the kids, because you know what? It's justified. Let's say I even agree with you on that one. And then I say, and then we do what? Because your solution right now is to tell me we stop all carbon emission, we stop all fossil fuels right now. Right now. But Jordan, what does that mean if we did that? What does that mean if we did that? It means
poor people will freeze in the dark and bake in the sun while they starve.
Thank you. You just signed a death warrant. And I'm going to talk about Africa only for now. You just signed a death warrant for 1.3 billion people, of them 1 billion Black people. And you just told me that Black Lives Matter. So even when it comes to climate, you're full of it. And I'm willing to say...
Let me tell you something, man. She is breaking it down, bruh. Breaking it down. She is breaking it down, man. Sheesh. I want Dad, where the collection plate at? I want to pass her $5. I want to pass her $5 in the collection plate because she is getting it in, bro.
So even when it comes to climate, you're full of it. And I'm willing to say that you're just an idiot because you don't know what's going on, but even there, and if you still with a straight face can say, yeah, well, to sacrifice the rest of the world, to sacrifice
save the planet.
these 1.3 billion Africans so that the earth can stay. Oh, really? How different are you then from somebody who enslaved me a little while ago? Really, my life is worth that? Black babies are gonna have to die so your white babies can stay alive? You know, sometimes when I hear the prince, who is that guy's name? You know, the Princess Diana had 2 kids, I think. The older one, with a straight face, the guy by the time he had popped child number 4, had the nerve to tell us that the problem with the world is overpopulation. Earth cannot sustain overpopulation. From a guy who has 4 kids. So what are you telling me exactly? Because I'm just...
Marian Tupy from humanprogress.org, he's publishing a book in August called Superabundance. And he's redone a number of economic calculations showing, for example, documenting the extremely positive relationship between increased population and general prosperity.
That's right.
And he calculated that every child born today will produce 7 times as many resources as he or she will consume.
See?
Right, C is right. And so all these people who are squawking about there being too many people on the planet, it's always other people who are too many, as
that's what I was
as
gonna
you're
say.
pointing out.
That's what I was gonna say.
Absolutely.
So here's Prince, whatever his name.
We're gluttonous. Gluttonous. Not adding to, but taking away. Wow. You're using up all the resources.
Too many, as
That's what I was
as
gonna
you're
say.
pointing out.
That's what I was gonna say.
Absolutely.
So here's Prince, whatever his name is, telling me that the problem with the world is overpopulation while just having popped his 4th child. So are you telling me that your child can live, but the other ones cannot?
Yes.
Because that's pretty much what you're saying, because
Yes.
you popped these kids. Yes. And if that's what you're saying, if you're saying that the other ones cannot, then go on, keep going with your thinking. Why?
Yeah, right.
Why can't they? Why can't they? Why can't they? Are you a closeted racist? Maybe
Look,
not that closeted.
we're gonna see this. We're gonna see this play out in the fall. This is coming just as certain as the sun's going to rise tomorrow. You know, the fact these environmental policies that have emboldened Putin, made Europe dependent on oil and gas from Russia.
That's right.
Now we have a shortage, we have a huge increase in fertilizer prices, and we know perfectly well that about 150 million people, most of them in Africa and in North Africa and in the Middle East and in sub-Saharan Africa, are going to be suffering dreadfully in the fall because of this. And so we can see right away that what has happened when push came to shove is that the radical utopian Marxist types who are beating the drum about the environment were perfectly willing to sacrifice today's real poor to the hypothetical well-being of some future poor in their utopian schemes.
Absolutely.
And that's coming right away.
No, it's coming right away. And then one of the things that the Ukrainian war has brought up to the surface, because we've been talking about it forever, and then people are like, oh, you're being too, you're not being, but it's the hypocrisy of these people, the hypocrisy. When I have a Green Party of all parties, the Green Party of Germany, I don't know if you heard it, a week or so ago, they came out and they said, oh, we have to keep burning coal a little while longer. Oh, really?
Yeah, a little while.
When you ask us on the line, we have to keep burning coal a little while longer. Oh, but the Africans? No. No. So this hypocrisy is the reckoning is coming. The reckoning is coming because I, for one, I'm not willing to stand there and let them get away with it. All of this time, they made it sound like they have a moral high ground, and I call not only BS.
That's enough of that. I agree, man.
I call
enough
BS.
of that. That's such a lie.
I call BS. I'm going to call them what they are. These anti-fossil fuel zealots are the new racists of our times. And we can see clear in their game, and we will not stand for it.
Anti-fossil fuel zealots. She done put some vernacular in my brain right there. Anti-fossil fuel zealots. You anti-fossil fuel zealot. You anti-fossil fuel zealot. Acting like you want to save the climate and all you are is an anti-fossil fuel zealot. Huh? What you say about my mama? Well, guess what your mama is? Your mama is an anti-fossil fuel zealot. Huh? I like that, anti-fossil fuel zealot.
Not. So a war is coming, but the war that's coming for me is not a cultural war. I think the cultural war is too easy for them to win in a way. But this one right here is going to bring them straight back to who they are. When I see that Jeff Bezos' ex-wife gave a couple $100 million to Planned Parenthood, and she specifically earmarked it for Black women. Lady, can you please tell me your further thinking? And we didn't hear about it, by the way, in the bigger news. So I'm just trying to understand, why does the world think that it needs less Black babies? It seems to me that's what it is. So they...
Wow. Wow. Come on, y'all heard that. Come on now. I'm giving y'all all this money, and this is for the Black ladies only, specifically for the Blacks. Now it comes off as rap, like, oh, we're helping them, because that's how a lot of people are looking at it. Like, that money right there is for helping Black. No, it's for making sure that, oh, no. Shh. Y'all need to pay for your babies again. You want to have some more? Get rid of the Black babies. Get rid of the Black babies. Keep getting rid of the Black babies. I pay for it. I got you. You ain't even got to go half on it. Wow. Wow. She kicking science, bro. She kicking science.
It needs less Black babies. It seems to me that's what it is. So we want to talk about racism. I think there is racism here that doesn't speak its name. But we're going to have to call it what it is. So it's going to be one thing or another,
wow.
Jordan. One is you're going to have to, I'm going to hold you, you're going to have to tell me that Black lives matter. If Black lives matter, then African lives have to matter. If African lives do matter, then capitalism matters. And if you make that case, we're good. Let's keep working.
And fossil fuels matter.
And fossil fuels
so
matters.
So people can burn clean burning fuels in their house instead of choking their children to death on indoor pollution.
With indoor pollution.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to tell me that all of that matters. If Black lives matter, then it means 1 billion Black African lives do matter, which means capitalism matter, which means fossil fuels matters. If not, you're telling me that it doesn't. Because, and you don't have to tell me Black lives don't matter for you to tell me it doesn't matter. All you have to tell me is, we can't have fossil fuels and we can't have capitalism. If you tell me that, then I know that de facto Black lives does not matter for you. And if Black lives does not matter for you, then you're racist. Done. You want to go through this whole like white supremacy is this and blah, blah, blah. Today, if you are not in favor of what is gonna contribute to my human flourishing as a Black person, forget white supremacy or whatever you want to call it. That to me is the new definition of racism. Let's go there.
And the wild thing is, if you don't support that as a Black person, then you're a sellout, because you're supposed to buy into that. Everybody that supports that way of thinking, sheesh, man, this world is going to hell in the handbasket. I swear to goodness, man.
You want to call it? That to me is the new definition of racism. Let's go there.
That's a really good place to end, I would say, this part of the discussion. I want to talk to you a little bit more. We're going to do this on the Daily Wire Plus network. And I want to talk to you a little bit more about your personal experiences, but I really want to thank you for having this conversation with me today. And I think I hope, as you said, it'll break up a lot of these. They're not just myths, they're toxic anti-truths. And they're hurting people in a way that we're just beginning to become aware of. And there's going to be all hell break loose this fall.
Yes.
So, and I'm really sad and sorry about that, because it was completely unnecessary. As you know, we know the pathway forward. Common law that's such a firm foundation to build a prosperous society upon. A proper free enterprise, localized economy. Get the bureaucrats and the resentful people the hell out of the way of people like you, and see if we can get prosperity to grow everywhere in the world. Then maybe, too, when people get rich enough, they'll be able to afford to care about the environment a little bit, instead of having to be forced into an anti-carbon environment by these idiot environmentalist zealots.
That's what I call it also the disrespect of the poor. It's
Yes,
total,
absolutely.
It's total disrespect for the poor, thinking that you're superior to them. Do you think you're superior to them just because you care about the air that you breathe? Gee, I think you would be just like this poor person if you had no food in your belly, child is sick, you don't know how you're going to take care of it. You had all of these issues that come straight from your poverty. I think that you two, the quality of the air you breathe or the quality of the water you drink might be numbered 100 in the priority list, because right now you have to survive. So for you to think that something is wrong with them because they don't care about that, well, maybe I'll put you in that position and we'll see when you're going to start to think about that. And so this is complete disrespect for the poor, and it is unacceptable. It is wrong.
Great. I agree with you 100%. All right. That's great. So thank you very much for talking to me.
Thank you for having me.
Much appreciated. It was very good to see you again.
That conversation was fire. I don't care what, man, that conversation was fire. Hopefully you think the same. So now's your turn. Please let me know whatever you want me to know about that in the comments below. And if you have yet to hit that subscribe button, please make sure you do so on your way out the door. Once again, guys, I'm Van, and now we are all of the LFR family, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video, hopefully inside the Patreon as well. If y'all would like for me to do longer podcast reactions the way we did this one with episodes, please let me know in the comments as well. Most people don't hang out until the ends of the video, so I probably should have asked this question in the beginning. But you know what? There's always the next time. Look, I'm just learning this thing, and I don't take this too seriously. I mean, I take the knowledge that I'm getting extremely seriously, but this right here is so much of a blessing that I'm having fun doing it, man. So hopefully y'all are having fun along with me. All right, I'll see y'all next time. Love y'all.